Hey, welcome back to Lessons in Leadership. It starts with you. What follows is an excerpt from my interview with Olympic champion, gold medalist, and what I would describe as a world-class human being, a gentleman by the name of Peter Vidmar. Take it away, fellas.
3, 2, 1.
When you find yourself in question of how to prepare for important events or simple day-to-day life, our guest in this episode may have the guidance and answers to better prepare you for life's inevitable ups and downs, or as I like to say, the inevitable wrapped gifts. Hello, I'm James McPartland. You can call me Mac. In this episode of Unopened Gifts, we hit the mat with a man by the name of Peter Vidmar. And we learn how this Olympian lived his life long before ever winning a medal, and as I like to say, how he won a gold medal in the game of life. I want to help you understand how to implement the gifts presented in this program in your own life, and maybe you too can have a chance to change the world. So what you'll learn from Peter, and we'll expand on this later, is it's not important to manage time, it's important to understand priorities. To be rifle shot clear on your priorities. What Peter would tell you is if you're going to look at time, be precise. Allocate a certain portion of your time each day to your number one priority before you move on to the second priority. Many of us can make the mistake of being very active or confusing activity with accomplishment. That'll get us nowhere, leads to frustration. Peter will get into how you really set priorities, how you allocate your goal structure, and how you make sure you have sufficient amount of time to execute on that plan. So let's tune in now to Peter Vidmar, how he sets priorities, how he allocates time and resources towards goals, and how he went on to receive a gold medal.
There isn't one person on this planet that has more than 24 hours in a day. And what are we going to do? How are we going to choose to spend our time? Because we write a check every day for 24 hours. Everybody does. We can write that check by wasting time. We can write that check by working our brains out. We can write that check by spending time with loved ones and family. But we write that check every day. And I have to ask myself, what's the best use of my time? And in the end, what am I going to look back and say, I'm really glad I spent my time doing this as opposed to that. We've always heard those sayings about, how many people on their deathbed said, I wish I would have closed one more deal. Wish I would have been in the office, spent, another hour a day in the office, Yeah. And certainly there's times that you have to spend that extra time in the office if you want to be productive in what you do. With regards to how we spend time, I learned early on in my gymnastics training that a little bit of extra effort consistently on a regular basis adds up. I can't work twice as hard as the next guy or girl in the gym. I can't work twice as hard as my next competitor in gymnastics. But I can work 15 more minutes a day than I normally would put out. And 15 minutes a day, every day for 1 year, adds up to over 91 hours. And if an athlete trains for 3 hours a day in a sport, and he or she chooses to train an extra 15 minutes a day, after 1 year, that's an extra 91 hours. You know what? That's an extra month of training every year based on a 3-hour-a-day workout schedule. I know that when I walked into any world championship competition, I always wished I had an extra month to get ready for it, but it was always too late. So those little extra efforts on a consistent basis really do add up. And those moments of wasted time also add up. So we want to plan our days wisely. But don't ever say, gee, what's 15 minutes a day? Pfft, that's going to have some major impact on my life, please. You know what? It can. It can on a consistent basis. It does add up. So I try to be mindful of moments of free time. How am I going to spend it? And it doesn't mean that you got to be doing something all the time. It's important to relax. You got to let go. You got to sharpen the saw sometimes. You got to recreate. You got to take a vacation. That's what keeps us sane. But have everything in its proper order, and life's fun.
So what clearly comes through from Peter is the concept that I call 24/7. You look at people who've accomplished great things in their life, no matter who it is, be it a Jonas Salk, a Richard Branson, a Diana Nyad, a Peter Vidmar. One thing we all have in common, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It's how we decide to deploy our time and energy within that framework of time. One of the things I find, and I've learned from Peter and I learned from some of the greats, that we often don't make time for is thinking. Thinking and planning. I was taught a long time ago, never begin a day until you finish it on paper. Peter talked about I never walked into the gym until I knew it was scheduled, I knew exactly what I was going to do. Otherwise, we waste time and we react to the day as opposed to responding to the day. Now, some people ask me, well, how do I know what my priorities are? First thing I say is, trust your gut, trust your instinct. And if for some reason the message is fuzzy, ask people who know you. As a matter of fact, some other people know you better than you know yourself. Third thing I would add is a values exercise. Now, people say a values exercise, what could that be? If I was to ask anybody at any point in time to pull out a piece of paper or tell me what their 5 highest values are, I would tell you most people would struggle. I struggled. And the purpose behind this is to understand what drives our actions, what creates our behavior, what creates our identity, who we are. When one looks at their value structure, they come to find what drives those actions, those behaviors. And for example, in my case, years ago, I had stressful experiences in my life. Most of us do. I couldn't put my finger on what it was that was bothering me. I went through this values exercise and I learned out of all the choices I had between really understanding what was most important to me, freedom was number one. Now at the time I had freedom, health, wealth, love, generosity, and those were things that perpetuated my actions, that made me feel empowered, that gave me fulfillment. But the one thing I learned was the things that inspired me were also things that caused me pain, when one of those values was violated, if you will. Number one for me was freedom. I couldn't understand what it was causing me conflict in my life when I come to recognize that freedom was being violated. If someone was imposing on my time, if somebody asked me for a favor, if traffic was going to prevent me from getting someplace, if an airplane was delayed, if someone was going to tell me what to do, that was causing me more stress than I would have normally understood as to why I was feeling stressed. What I learned was that was of high importance to me. And when I realized that story in my head about conflict, I was able to reframe it and look at freedom as a positive, as an empowering way. So when you look at your values, and I strongly encourage people to pick your 5 highest values at the moment. Look for things that validate those values, that reinforce them in your life, whether they are something you are participating in yourself or you see it in other people, because you'll know when you see that value in action. The same token, if you see stress within yourself or other people, or if you see 2 people in conflict, those are values conflicts, 2 people trying to be right. When you see something, in my case, freedom, if I see that violated, it causes me stress, even if it's not me. It interferes with what was the most important priority for me in my life. So if I come back to Peter, we all get 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, focusing on priorities. Minutes matter. He even said if you added 15 minutes a day to his workout routine, over the course of a year, that's an extra month of competition to give him a chance at being a gold medal performer. Further, I know Peter is a man who lives his values, family being the highest, in a way that is beyond admirable. 5 children he was raising as he was down the path to become an Olympic gold medal champion. He never missed a birthday, never missed a soccer game. He missed a lot of sleep, but he knew what his values were. He knew what he wanted. He knew why he wanted it. He wasn't sure how he was going to get there, but he surrounded himself with the people that were going to take him down the path to Olympic gold.
Make a list of everything you got to do every day. Not in order of importance. Make the list. Okay, of all those things, what are the A's? What has to be done today? And what are the B's? What are the things that should be done today? And what are the C's that you'd like to get around to if you have the time? Okay, now let's go back to the A's. Of all those A's, what's the most important one that you really got to focus on right now? A1. What's the next one? A2. What's the next one? A3. B1, B2, B3. And then all of a sudden, after 10 minutes of reflection and planning, I just mapped out my whole day. And in that grouping of A's and B's and C's is leisure time. It is fun. It is relaxation. It's lunch with a friend. It doesn't have to be a task that's not fun. But if we do that, it just makes it easier to kind of tackle the day. And sometimes we kind of wake up in the morning and shoot from the hip, hoping it's going to turn out okay. I never did that in gymnastics. I had a plan every day when I walked into the gym. And that's what helped me to be an Olympic champion. So if it worked in that area of my life, it's probably going to work in other areas too.
What I love is the consistent reminder that time is a non-renewable resource. Look, anywhere we want to go in life, it doesn't go anywhere without a plan, but it never goes to plan. Choose your minutes wisely, or more importantly, choose the activities that allocate your minutes wisely, because the minutes stack up. And as Peter taught us, we can get an extra month advantage as leaders by following that formula.